Baby, you ever give everything you got to someone, only to watch them turn around and treat you like you ain't worth a dime? I spent my life making sure my daughter had every little thing she ever wanted, sacrificed my own needs just to make sure she had more. So, when I thought, let me treat her to something nice, a getaway at this fancy resort, you'd think she'd be grateful, right? Nah. She ditched me, left me all alone at that fancy hotel like I was just some old woman who didn't matter. But what she didn't know. That night, I made a move that flipped the whole script. You won't believe what happened next, honey. Stay with me. It's about to get real. The sun was shining brighter than I had seen it in years. The kind of sunshine that makes everything feel like it's got a little extra sparkle to it, you know? The kind of day where you feel like you can breathe deeper, think clearer. Maybe that's why I was so excited. It wasn't just the beauty of the day, but the thought that this trip, this moment, was going to be our moment. Me and my daughter, Mia. I've spent my whole life making sure she had everything she needed, always putting her first. Sacrificing things that other people would think were small, but for me, those were pieces of my soul I handed over without hesitation. I worked long hours, sometimes 3 jobs, to make sure she never went without. I'd borrow money from the neighbor just to make sure the bills were paid so she could go on her school trips. I'd skip meals just so she could have a new dress for her dance recital. I put my dreams on hold, gave up the things that could have been mine, all for her. And when she got older, when she started making her own money, started buying her own things, I thought maybe it was time for her to give back. But not just in the way you might think. Not with money or gifts. I wanted her time. Her heart. That's all I ever wanted from her, to feel like I mattered in her life. So when the idea of this trip came to mind, I thought it was perfect. A chance for us to really connect, to remember the bond we used to have before she got all busy with life. I planned this trip for months. I mean, I went all out. You know how when you're trying to do something nice for someone, you go that extra mile? That was me. I saved every penny. I even picked up extra hours cleaning houses, just to make sure we could afford a weekend at this resort up the coast. You know, the kind of place with those white sand beaches, the ones that make you feel like you're walking on clouds? The kind of place that smells like fresh sea air and coconut sunscreen. The kind of place where you order cocktails by the pool and they give you one of those little umbrellas in your drink. You know what I mean. It was going to be perfect. Mia was thrilled when I first mentioned it. You should have seen her face light up. I thought to myself, finally. After all these years of giving, it's my turn to receive. It's my turn to see her eyes sparkle the way they used to when she was little. I booked everything, the beachfront villa, the meals, the spa treatments. I thought, this is it. This is going to be the trip that brings us closer. We're going to laugh, talk, and I'll get to have my baby back, even if just for a weekend. But I couldn't shake that feeling in my chest, that flutter of excitement and anxiety mixed together. Maybe it's a mother's intuition, or maybe it was just me trying to make everything perfect. I thought to myself, I'll show her what it means to have a good time. We'll make memories. She'll see that I'm not just her mother, I'm a woman who can enjoy life too. She'll see me, really see me. The day of the trip arrived, and I couldn't contain my joy. I woke up early, made my coffee just the way I like it, and packed my bag with the care of someone who knew exactly how this day was going to unfold. Mia was getting ready too. She looked beautiful as always. She dressed in her sundress, and I couldn't help but smile at the thought of how much she'd grown. The girl who used to wear pigtails and run around in the backyard was now standing there, looking all grown up, ready to hit the resort like a queen. We drove to the resort in silence at first. You know, those comfortable silences where you don't need to say anything because you just know each other so well. It was like that for a little while. I looked at her, tried to catch her eye in the rearview mirror, but she was lost in her phone, typing away, probably texting her boyfriend or her friends. No big deal. I thought, she's just busy. She's excited too. When we got to the resort, it was everything I imagined and more. The sound of the waves crashing, the smell of the ocean breeze, the soft white sand underfoot. The resort staff greeted us with drinks, the kind with the little paper umbrellas I used to buy for her as a kid. It was all beautiful. Everything I imagined it would be, and I couldn't wait to share it with Mia. But the moment we checked in, things started to feel off. Mia barely acknowledged the woman at the front desk, her eyes still glued to her phone. I made a joke, something about she must be texting someone more important than her mama. She looked up at me, smiled, but it was the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She shrugged and said, "Just got to make sure everything's okay with work. You know how it is." I didn't press. I should have. But I didn't. I just smiled and followed her to the villa, carrying my hopes, my dreams for the weekend like a heavy bag on my shoulder. But as the evening went on, things didn't get better. No, they got worse. The dinner was supposed to be our first real moment. I made sure we had a private table on the beach, the sound of the waves in the background, the sun setting low in the sky. I thought, this is it. This is where we'll finally talk. We'll laugh. We'll share memories like we used to. I watched her sit down across from me, and for the first time all day, I felt like she was really there. She wasn't distracted. She wasn't looking at her phone. For the first time in what felt like forever, Mia looked me in the eye. But then, like a shadow falling across the table, it happened. She checked her phone again. She barely looked up as she apologized. "Sorry, Mom. Just a quick work thing." And that was the moment. That was when I felt that cold wave of realization hit me. I had spent all this money. I had sacrificed my time, my energy, my everything for this moment, and here she was, barely even acknowledging me. I watched her as she typed away, completely unaware of the hurt creeping across my chest. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to ruin the night. So I sat there, silent, watching her check her messages, glancing at her phone like I wasn't even there. Like I was just some old woman sitting across from her at a fancy dinner. I forced myself to smile, but it didn't feel real. I laughed along with her jokes, but the laughter didn't reach my heart. And as the night stretched on, I felt more and more like a guest in her life, rather than a mother who had given everything just to be seen. That night, I lay in the bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The sounds of the resort, the soft laughter from the bar, the clinking of glasses, it all felt so distant. So far away. And then it hit me. It was happening. The very thing I had been afraid of all along. My daughter had ditched me. Not physically, no. But emotionally? Mentally? That was the betrayal. She had everything I gave her, but what did she give me in return? The plan was to spend time together, but what I didn't know was that it would be my last night at that resort, alone. As the night stretched on, I knew something had to change. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Not at all. Tomorrow, I was going to have to make my move. There's a silence that you feel deep in your bones, the kind that hits you when you least expect it, the kind that makes your heartbeat seem like it's louder than everything else. That's how I felt as I sat there in that fancy resort lobby, watching my daughter walk around, laughing, living her best life, while I sat there, ignored. That quiet ache creeping into my chest, heavy as lead. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. No, I wasn't going to let her see that weakness. I'd spent too many years being strong. Too many years swallowing my pride for her, doing what I thought a good mother should do. And for what? For her to forget where it all came from? When I was younger, I didn't mind putting myself last. That's what mothers do, right? We sacrifice. We give everything we've got, even when it feels like there's nothing left. So many nights I stayed up late, worrying about bills, making sure Mia had what she needed, whether it was food, clothes, school supplies, whatever it was, I made sure it was there. I worked long hours, cleaned houses, did laundry for people who couldn't even spare me a thank you after I was done. But you know what? I didn't care. I didn't mind because I had this belief, this hope that one day, Mia would see all that sacrifice and understand. When she was little, it was easier. We had our moments. I would come home after a long day of work, and she'd come running to me, arms wide open, calling out, "Mama," like I was the best thing in the world. I lived for those moments. But when she got older, things started to shift. Slowly, she became more distant. The little girl who once needed me began to turn into a young woman who didn't have time for me. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Teenagers go through stuff, right? They get busy, they have their own friends, their own lives. But even when Mia went off to college, I was still there. Every step of the way. I loaned her money when she needed it, signed her up for every extracurricular she was interested in, supported her dreams, even if I didn't have the resources for it. And all I ever got in return was silence. She never asked how I was. Never once did she take the time to check in on me the way I checked in on her. It was always about what I could do for her, not about what she could do for me. I kept telling myself, it's just a phase. It'll change. She's busy. She'll come around. But that's a lie, ain't it? You wait, and before you know it, time's passed and you're sitting alone, wondering where it all went wrong. And that's where I found myself at this damn resort. I had spent months saving up for this trip, putting aside every penny I could, so Mia and I could have the getaway I thought we both deserved. I wanted us to reconnect, to laugh together, to reminisce. I wanted her to see me, really see me, for the first time in years. I thought, maybe if I give her this, she'll realize how much I've sacrificed. Maybe she'll appreciate me finally. But instead, she acted like I was a stranger. Like I was just another hotel guest. The night before, she'd barely spoken to me. I had booked us a fancy dinner, thinking we'd finally have some quality time together. But no, she spent the entire evening texting on her phone. When I tried to engage her in conversation, she'd just nod, half listening, her mind clearly somewhere else. Meanwhile, I was pouring my heart out about how much this trip meant to me, how much I wanted to feel close to her again, and all I got in response was a polite, hum. That's when I started to feel it. That tightness in my chest, that sinking feeling in my stomach. My daughter was no longer the person I used to know. And I realized something even worse. She wasn't interested in finding that person again. By the time we made it to the lobby that morning, Mia had completely checked out. She had her bags, her sunglasses perched on her nose, and all the energy in the world for the resort staff. She was talking to the concierge, making plans to go on some excursion while I sat there like a forgotten relic in a chair, the weight of my sacrifices bearing down on me. I could see her chatting and laughing with the staff, and something inside me twisted. I wanted to scream, "Don't you see what I've done for you? Don't you realize what this cost me?" I watched her walk away, too busy with herself to even look back at me. And in that moment, it hit me, I had given everything. I sacrificed everything for her, and now she couldn't even give me the time of day. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders, shake her, and say, "I'm not just a place for you to rest your head when it's convenient. I'm your mother." But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I sat there, pretending like it didn't hurt, pretending I wasn't bleeding inside. You ever felt like you were invisible? Like you'd done everything in your power to make someone feel loved, and they didn't even see it? I sat there, quiet, thinking about all the times I'd put her needs before mine, all the times I held my tongue when I should have spoken up, and it hit me, she didn't see me anymore. She couldn't even see the weight of what I'd done. How could she? But maybe the real question is, how could I let her get away with it? And that's when the decision hit me. Sitting there in the lobby, watching Mia live her best life without me, something inside me snapped. For so long, I'd been the one to bend, the one to sacrifice, the one to keep everything together. But at that moment, I realized that I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. I wasn't going to sit there quietly while she walked all over me. It was time for me to make a move. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't just going to sit back and take this. No more. And just like that, my mind was made up. That night, everything would change. But what did I have to lose now? I had nothing left but the truth. The truth that Mia had no idea what I had done for her, what I had given up for her, and how badly I had been left in the dark. When you've given everything, sometimes the only thing left to give is the truth. And trust me, that night, the truth was coming. It was time for Mia to learn what it felt like to be left behind, just as I had been left behind by her. But one question lingered in my mind as I sat there alone. Would she even care? Would she see me for the first time in years, or was I already lost to her? That night, she was going to find out. And whether she wanted to or not, it was my turn to make a move. It was in that moment, sitting in the lobby by myself, I realized something. I had given everything and she didn't even know. You ever get to a point in life where you look at everything you've done, everything you've given, and wonder, what for? You ever have that feeling, like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, watching the world spin around you, and you can't seem to figure out where you fit in anymore? That's how I felt as I walked through that resort alone. The palm trees swaying, the sun casting long shadows across the walkways, and all I could think about was how this wasn't supposed to be my reality. I thought this trip was going to be different. I thought it would be the start of something new between Mia and me. I thought we would finally have time to talk, to laugh, to be together. But the moment I saw her brush me off in the lobby, I knew. I knew everything was about to change. She wasn't the little girl who used to run to me for comfort. No. Now she was a grown woman who had no time for me. And that hit harder than anything I'd ever felt in my life. I walked past the pool, my heart aching with every step. The water shimmered in the fading sunlight, a beautiful sight, yet all I could see was the emptiness inside me. All I could feel was the weight of everything I'd done for her, everything I sacrificed. And for what? For her to ignore me? To treat me like I was some extra person in her life who didn't matter? I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. I wanted to shake her and say, "Don't you see what I've given up for you?" But the more I walked, the more I realized this wasn't about her anymore. This wasn't about getting her to see me. No, this was about me. About my dignity, my worth, my time. I had spent so many years bending over backward for her, for everyone, just to keep the peace. But that wasn't enough anymore. I wasn't going to be invisible any longer. I had given my whole life to her. I raised her, worked 2 jobs, never asked for anything in return. I put her needs first, even when mine were starving. And she never once asked how I felt. Never once considered what I needed. I sacrificed so much, and in return, I got nothing but silence. She wasn't the person I raised her to be. And I realize now that she might never be. You know, sometimes we give so much of ourselves, we forget who we are. We become shadows of the people we used to be, trying to keep up with everyone else's needs, trying to keep the peace, and hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'll notice. But let me tell you something, you can't give from an empty cup. And that's exactly where I was, drained. Empty. Hollow. I had nothing left to give. But here's the thing, I was tired. Tired of pretending like it was okay. Tired of playing this role of the good, patient mother who always just forgives and forgets. It was time to stand up for myself. Time to take back my dignity. I walked through that resort like I was a queen about to take her throne back. You might have thought I was just a lonely, old woman strolling around, but in my mind, something had shifted. Something had snapped. I wasn't invisible anymore. You ever reach a point where enough is enough? Where you can't take the disappointment, the disrespect, the silence anymore. Well, this night, I had reached mine. And I wasn't going to sit by and watch my daughter live her life without me in it. I walked through the resort's grand hall, my heels clicking against the polished marble floor. The staff greeted me with smiles, but I barely noticed them. All I could think about was how long I'd let Mia's selfishness go unchecked. How many times had I let her walk all over me, thinking that one day she'd see all I had done? Thinking that one day she'd appreciate me? Well, that day wasn't coming. I stopped in front of the grand staircase, the lights dimming as the evening set in. I looked up at the crystal chandelier, glittering above, and something inside me hardened. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her to validate me. I had done more than enough. And if she wasn't going to acknowledge that, then I'd have to show her just how much I had done. You ever been so fed up, so done, that you just say no more? Because that's how I felt. No more. No more waiting for her to see me. No more asking for her time. No more being the invisible matriarch. Tonight, I was going to make my move. Not out of spite, but because I finally realized I was worth more than the silence, the neglect, and the disappointment. I deserved respect. And it was time to claim it. I was tired of being the one who gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. I was tired of feeling like I didn't matter, like I was just a tool for her to use whenever it suited her. I had loved her with everything in me. I had sacrificed for her. But I was tired. I took a deep breath, letting the evening air fill my lungs. The smell of the ocean, the warm breeze, it all felt so far away. Everything felt far away except for one thought: I will not shrink for her anymore. I turned on my heels and headed toward the main dining area. The lights were dimmed, the sounds of clinking silverware and low conversation floating in the air. Mia was sitting at a table with her friends, laughing. Her eyes were bright, her shoulders relaxed. But she didn't see me. She didn't even look at me. And that was the final straw. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to make a scene. But I was done being invisible. So, I walked up to her table, my hands steady, my voice calm but firm. "Hey, Mia," I said, looking straight into her eyes. The table fell silent. She looked up, a little startled, and for a split second, I saw something flicker in her gaze. But it was too late. She had no idea what I had been holding in all these years. She had no idea how deeply she had hurt me. "Mama, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice filled with a mix of surprise and irritation. I took my seat, my gaze never leaving hers. "I'm here because I want you to know something. I've done enough. I've given everything. And I won't sit by and let you treat me like I'm invisible anymore. I deserve respect. I deserve to be seen. And if you can't give that to me, then I'm done." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything I had been holding in. Mia sat there, speechless. For the first time in a long time, she didn't have anything to say. Her usual deflection, her usual excuses were gone. She was finally forced to hear me, to see me. And that was the moment, my friends, when I knew everything had changed. Because when you've been invisible for so long, sometimes you just need to stand up, make your voice heard, and take back your dignity. And that night, that's exactly what I did. You ever reach a point where enough is enough? Well, this night, I had reached mine. You ever have a moment in your life where you can feel everything shift? Like something inside of you just snaps? It was that kind of night. A night that felt like a new beginning, but not the kind anyone expects. Oh no, honey. This was my moment. I wasn't just Granny Tina anymore. I wasn't the woman who silently held everything together for everyone else. Tonight, I was the woman who decided it was time to make her move. I walked through that resort like I owned it. Oh, I'd been invisible for far too long, letting Mia's neglect slide, holding on to hope that maybe one day she'd realize what I'd done for her. But after what happened last night, after I had the nerve to stand up for myself, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to be that invisible woman anymore. Not for Mia. Not for anyone. I stopped at the bar, took a deep breath, and looked at myself in the mirror. A smile crept across my face. Did you ever look in the mirror and see someone else looking back at you? Someone you hadn't seen in years? That's what I saw in my reflection, me. The woman who raised her daughter, worked 2 jobs, sacrificed everything. The woman who deserved respect. And that night? That woman was going to remind everyone, starting with Mia, who she really was. Now, I had spent years saving for this trip. Every penny was hard-earned, nothing handed to me. I'd scrimped and saved. I'd put away money every chance I got. It wasn't easy. But I wasn't about to let her take this luxury away from me, too. I wasn't about to let her think I had given her this trip just because I didn't have any better plans. Oh no, baby. She didn't know it yet, but I had a plan. A plan that would hit her harder than any heartbreak could. See, Mia's always been about appearances. She loves the idea of being rich, being fancy, showing off for the world. But what she doesn't know is that her mother, the woman she thought was just an old relic to be used when convenient, had a few tricks of her own. And tonight, I was going to show her exactly what happens when you take advantage of a woman who knows her worth. I stepped into the resort's main office, quiet and deliberate. The receptionist didn't even raise an eyebrow when I asked to speak with the manager. She probably thought I was just another guest with a complaint, someone who didn't matter. Well, let me tell you something, honey. She was about to learn just how much I mattered. The manager greeted me warmly, but there was a hesitation in his eyes when I asked to talk to him privately. I led him down a quieter hallway, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. I wasn't here to complain. No, I was here to make an announcement. A big announcement. I need you to prepare something for me, I said, lowering my voice so that it carried just the right amount of weight. I want you to get the total amount of what this trip cost. Everything. All the meals, all the amenities. Everything. You got that? His brow furrowed, and I saw the gears turning in his mind, wondering why this sweet, older woman was asking him for all the details of the resort's expenses. I could practically hear him thinking, what does she want with all this information? Oh, and one more thing, I continued, leaning in just a little closer. I want a printout of the charges made to the room. Everything Mia's been using, all the little things she's been racking up in the name of vacation. He hesitated. Ma'am, I'm not sure. Do you have a problem with that? I snapped. Because I can go somewhere else if I have to. His eyes widened. No, ma'am. I'll get it for you right away. I smiled. Oh, this was going to be good. I wasn't just going to sit back and be forgotten in the corner. No, tonight I was going to force Mia to face the truth. All these years of sacrificing for her, all these years of silently accepting the role of the invisible mother, well, that was done. I wasn't doing it anymore. As I sat in the lobby waiting for the manager to return, the waiting felt like an eternity. My hands were shaking just a little, but not from nerves. No, this was something else. Something different. This was the power of realizing that I had control. I had power. I had spent my entire life making sure Mia had everything she wanted, from the right clothes to the right school, from the car to the house to the perfect vacation. I'd spent years bending over backward, giving her everything I had and more. And what did I get? Nothing. No thanks, no gratitude, no acknowledgement. Not even a simple, I love you, Mama. Now, I wanted to know, was she going to see me? Was she going to acknowledge what I had sacrificed for her? Or was she going to continue taking me for granted, as though I was just some old woman waiting around to be needed? When the manager returned with the printout, I took a deep breath. Here it was. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This was the moment. I waited until Mia came down from her room, her heels clicking softly against the floor, her hair perfectly done, her face glowing with the satisfaction of her little vacation. She didn't even see me at first. But I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to sit back in silence while she played the role of the perfect daughter in front of everyone. She spotted me and her smile faltered. Her eyes narrowed as she approached, her usual smug confidence faltering for a split second. I could tell she didn't expect me to be this strong. I stood up slowly and handed her the printout. Her eyes flicked down to it, her face going pale. Mama, what is this? She stammered, her eyes darting back up to mine, her voice suddenly weak. I leaned in closer, watching her every move. This is the total cost of your little vacation. The one I paid for. The one you thought was just handed to you. What you don't know, sweetheart, is that everything we've done here, every meal, every spa treatment, every drink, it was me who made it happen. Not you. Not the man you've been running off to your room with. Me. I paid for all of it. Her eyes widened. The room seemed to close in on us. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I saw her face twist in disbelief, and I knew it was too late. I had already made my move. How could you? She whispered, her voice cracking. I've been invisible for too long, I said, my voice steady but full of power. I spent my whole life making sure you were seen. Making sure you had everything. And what did I get? Nothing. So tonight, Mia, I'm taking my power back. The silence between us was suffocating. You could hear the distant hum of the resort behind us, but it felt like the whole world had gone quiet. I waited for her response. For the first time in my life, I wasn't holding my breath for her approval. I didn't care anymore. You never even asked how I felt, I added softly, the weight of the words hanging heavy in the air. You just took everything I gave you and never once looked back. Mia opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was too stunned, too confused by what had just happened. I watched as the reality of it all began to sink in. The anger, the guilt, the confusion, I could see it all over her face. You never knew how hard I worked to make sure you had what you wanted, I continued. How much I sacrificed to give you the life you have. And all this time, you thought I was just an afterthought? A nobody? Not anymore. I stood tall, watching her struggle to find words. I didn't need her to apologize. I didn't need her to understand everything right away. But tonight, I wanted her to see me. See the woman who had given everything for her. And as the night wore on, and the silence stretched between us, I knew I had done what I needed to do. I had made my move. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't invisible anymore. I watched her face twist in disbelief when she realized what I had done. That night, I took my power back. You ever hit a point where the truth comes pouring out, and it feels like the weight of it all is too heavy for one heart to carry? Well, baby, that's where I was that night. Truth spilled out between us like water from a dam, loud, relentless, and impossible to stop. The floodgates had opened, and everything I had swallowed for years, all the hurt, all the disappointment, came pouring out, leaving no room for anything but the cold, hard reality of what had happened. You see, Mia stood there, her face twisted in disbelief. She was angry, sure, but there was something else too. Something deeper. Guilt. Regret. Maybe even shame. But I wasn't here for her excuses, her sobs, or her pleading. No, baby. This wasn't a moment for tears. This was a moment for truth. And the truth was, my daughter had betrayed me in ways she couldn't even begin to understand. I'm not the kind of woman to hide behind a smile, pretending everything's okay when it's not. I used to be. Used to let her think she could treat me however she wanted. Well, that stopped the second I handed her that printout, made her realize who had really been holding up this house of cards. And when I watched the realization hit her, I knew. I knew this was the beginning of something that couldn't be undone. Why didn't you tell me, Mama? Why now? She asked, her voice trembling as she paced the room, unable to sit still with the weight of the truth pressing down on her. I didn't flinch. I didn't flinch when she yelled. Didn't flinch when she stormed off, only to turn around and come back at me like she had something to prove. I didn't flinch because the truth was already out, and there was no way to shove it back in now. I was done being invisible, done being the one who always gave, always gave, always gave, until there was nothing left but dust and regret. Why now, Mama? She asked again, quieter this time. Her voice cracked, her anger replaced by confusion. I looked at her, standing there like the weight of what I was about to say was too heavy for her to bear. But baby, sometimes the weight of the truth is the only thing that's going to set you free. So I said it, the things I had been holding in for years. The things no daughter ever wants to hear, but every mother wishes they had the courage to say. You really want to know why, Mia? I said, my voice low but steady. I'll tell you why. Because for years, I let you walk all over me. I gave everything I had, my time, my money, my spirit, and you took it all for granted. You think I've been quiet all these years because I don't care? No, baby. I've been quiet because I didn't want you to see what I was becoming. I didn't want to see myself in this mess of resentment and broken promises. Her face tightened, the guilt written all over her. She wanted to protest, to defend herself, but she couldn't. Not this time. Not with the truth laid out between us, stark and unrelenting. She could try to deny it all she wanted, but deep down, she knew I was right. "You don't get it, Mama," she whispered, her voice barely audible now. "You don't know what it's been like for me. I didn't soften. I didn't offer comfort. Not this time. Because that's what got me here in the first place, always offering comfort when I should have been demanding respect. Always trying to heal the wounds of a relationship that was only one-sided." I took a deep breath and the words came, sharp and unyielding. "Oh, I know exactly what it's been like for you. You've been out there, living your life, climbing your corporate ladder, enjoying your fancy dinners and vacations, all while I've been here, in the shadows, holding everything up. You've been living like I don't exist, like I'm just some old lady who's supposed to take whatever crumbs you throw my way. But I'm done, Mia. I'm done being invisible." She opened her mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. I could see it now, she was hurt. Hurt because, for the first time, I wasn't just her mother. I wasn't just the woman who sacrificed everything for her. I wasn't the woman who kept quiet and let her run her life while I waited in the background. No, baby. That woman was gone. I stood taller. I stood taller than I'd ever stood in front of her. And when I spoke again, the words hit like a hammer. "You've got your fancy job, your pretty house, your business trips, your social media life. But where have you been for me, Mia? Where's the love? Where's the respect? Do you think I raised you just so you could walk all over me? To give you everything and get nothing in return? Well, I'm done, baby. You've gotten away with it for too long, and tonight you're going to see what happens when a woman decides she's had enough." Her face twisted, like she wanted to cry, but no tears came. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't form the words she wanted to say. The guilt in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. "You think I didn't see you?" I asked, my voice rising now, full of years of pain. "You think I didn't see how you stopped calling? How you stopped coming around? How you'd only show up when you wanted something? You think I didn't notice that? You think I didn't feel the distance between us, the one you put there when you stopped caring?" Her face softened for a moment, and for the first time in years, I saw a glimpse of the daughter I once knew. The one who used to love me. But it was too late for that now. Too much had been said. Too much had been left unsaid for too long. "Do you know what it's like to give everything and get nothing back?" I asked her, my voice shaking with emotion now. "Do you know what it's like to watch your daughter grow into this beautiful woman, only for her to turn her back on you when you need her most? I've been invisible for you, Mia. But not anymore. Not tonight." She stepped back, her eyes filling with tears. "Mama, I didn't mean to hurt you. But it was too late. The damage had already been done." I wasn't mad at her anymore. I wasn't angry. I was disappointed. I was disappointed that I had given my whole heart to someone who didn't even realize how much I had sacrificed. I was disappointed that she had taken my love for granted for so long. But most of all, I was disappointed that she didn't understand the one thing that really mattered, that love doesn't mean taking. Love means giving and receiving. And for the first time in my life, I was going to take back what was rightfully mine. The truth was out in the open, and there was no going back from that night. But honey, when you stand in your truth, something beautiful happens. You ever sit down with someone you love, or thought you loved, and feel like the world between you is just too far to cross? I'm not talking about just a little gap, baby. No, I mean a chasm so wide you wonder if it's even possible to rebuild what's been shattered. That's where Mia and I were, sitting there in that cafe, no more pretending, no more quiet suffering. Just me and her. The air was heavy with the weight of everything we'd been through. I wasn't sure if we'd come back from this, but I knew one thing. I was ready to try. You see, I've had my fair share of heartbreak. I've given pieces of myself away until I was so small, I could barely remember the woman I used to be. But when the truth came out that night, when I took my power back, I realized something. I deserved to be seen. I deserved to be heard. I wasn't the woman who would be silenced anymore. Not for anyone. Not even my daughter. The first few moments were quiet. Too quiet. Too many thoughts crowding the air, too many apologies that were left unsaid. I looked at Mia, and I saw the same woman I had raised. The woman I had given everything to, but also the woman who had taken so much. She had tears in her eyes, but those tears weren't enough. They couldn't undo all the years of silence, all the years of pretending I didn't feel invisible, neglected. But here's the thing. I wasn't just going to let her play the victim. I wasn't going to let her off the hook, not anymore. Mia, I said, my voice calm but steady, like a mother talking to a child who finally understands. I've spent a lifetime giving and giving. But that doesn't mean I'm supposed to be invisible. That doesn't mean you get to take from me without seeing the woman I am. Her hands trembled on the table. I watched her try to hold back the tears, her breath catching as if she wanted to speak, but the words wouldn't come. You ever have someone look at you like they don't even recognize you anymore? Like they've forgotten who you are, what you've done? It hurt, but it also felt freeing. Because for the first time, I wasn't afraid to be honest. For the first time, I wasn't afraid to demand what was mine. I'm sorry, Mama, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I raised my hand gently, not out of anger, but out of the respect I'd fought so hard to reclaim. Don't apologize, Mia, I said softly, but firmly. Don't apologize like it's just some easy thing to fix. It's not. You can't just say sorry and expect everything to be all right. What I need, what I deserve, is respect. And that's where we start. You ever try to make someone understand something that you know they've been too selfish to see? I could feel her guilt, I could feel her regret, but I wasn't about to let that be the end of the conversation. I wanted more. I wanted her to really see me, to understand what I had carried for so long. And that's when I did it. I set the boundary. One that should have been set long ago. I'm not your punching bag anymore. I'm not your free ride. I'm not here to fill your gaps and keep quiet while you live your life. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on something real, Mia. It has to be built on respect. Her eyes widened as the weight of my words hit her. She wasn't used to me talking like this. She wasn't used to me standing up for myself. Hell, she wasn't used to me standing at all. But I wasn't going to let her or anyone else make me small anymore. But here's the truth, baby. Even as I said those words, part of me didn't know if she would get it. Part of me wondered, can she? Will she? Mia sat there, her eyes filled with confusion, maybe even hurt, but there was something else too. Something I wasn't sure I had seen in her for a long time. Was it understanding? Was it regret? Was it finally realizing how much she had taken me for granted? Mama, I didn't know. She started again, but I interrupted her, shaking my head. No, Mia. That's the problem. You didn't know. But you had to. You should have. I'm not just your mother. I'm a woman. And I'm done pretending that I don't matter. There it was. The truth had been said. And whether she liked it or not, it was out there, hanging between us like an anchor. I was ready to move forward, but I needed to see if she could meet me halfway. Mama, I've been so selfish, I didn't even realize it, she finally said, her voice breaking. I've been so caught up in my own world, I didn't see you. I didn't see how much you gave, how much you sacrificed. And I've taken it for granted. In that moment, I saw her. Not as the daughter I raised, but as the woman she had become. And as I looked at her, the anger softened. Not because I didn't still hurt, but because I realized this was the moment where something could change. It's not too late, Mia, I said softly, my voice full of the kind of calm that comes with standing firm in your truth. But if we're going to fix this, we have to both be willing to do the work. You have to show up. And I have to trust you. You have my word, Mama, she said, looking me dead in the eye. I will show up. I promise. And there it was. The promise. The first real one I had heard from her in years. And baby, you know what? Sometimes that's all it takes. One promise. One moment of understanding. One moment where you decide to trust again. But here's the thing, this wasn't some fairy tale ending. I didn't walk away from that table expecting everything to be perfect. But I did walk away knowing that I had done what I could. I had set my boundaries. I had stood up for myself. I had finally made her see me. And let me tell you, honey, it wasn't a fairy tale ending. But I'll tell you this, that night, something in me changed for the better. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. But I'll tell you this, that night, something in me changed for the better. Baby, let me tell you something. There's a difference between surviving and living. And for most of my life, I did what I had to do to survive. I gave. I gave until I didn't know who I was anymore. Until I became a ghost in my own life, invisible to everyone but me. But after that night at the resort, something shifted in me. Something broke wide open, and for the first time, I saw me again. You ever feel like you've been holding your breath for so long that you almost forgot how to exhale? That was me. I spent so many years trying to make sure everyone else was breathing, making sure my daughter, my family, my world was happy, healthy, and whole, that I stopped paying attention to the woman who had to hold everything together. The woman who needed love, respect, and recognition too. I was so busy being the matriarch, I forgot how to be just me. But, baby, I'm here to tell you that's done. I walked out of that resort not just as a mother, but as a woman who finally knew her worth. And I'll be damned if I let anyone make me feel invisible again. Not Mia, not anyone. Pause. Let that sink in for a second. I'm not just talking about a little self-respect. No, honey, I'm talking about knowing every single ounce of what you bring to the table and never allowing anyone to make you feel less than. What makes you invisible in your own life? What happens when the pain and betrayal don't break you, but instead make you stronger? You see, after the dust settled, after the rawness of that night faded, I started to feel something I hadn't in years. Something soft, something gentle, but strong. It was hope. It was the quiet assurance that no matter how much I'd given, no matter how much I'd lost, I still had a life to live. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for someone else to give me permission to live it. So what did I do? I took the next step. I decided it was time for Granny Tina to live. And that meant I wasn't just going to pick up the pieces of my relationship with Mia. No, I was going to pick up the pieces of me. For years, I had put my dreams on the shelf. All my hopes, all the things I wanted to do, they were wrapped up in the notion that I had to give everything to my family. But not anymore. After everything that had happened, I looked in that mirror and I said, Granny Tina, it's your time now. And baby, let me tell you, I didn't waste a minute. I finally did what I always wanted to do. I picked up my paintbrush again. For years, I'd let it collect dust. I'd lost myself in being everything to everyone. But now I was painting for me. I signed up for a watercolor class, just for me. No family to impress, no one to hold my hand, just me, the brush, and the canvas. And you know what? It felt good. Real good. But it wasn't just painting. I started making those trips I always dreamed about. I went to places I'd only seen in books. I went to the beach, just to listen to the waves crash against the shore. I went to the mountains, to feel that fresh air fill my lungs, to let the trees remind me that I too am rooted, and I too can grow. It wasn't about luxury. It was about freedom. It was about finding myself again. I didn't need a fancy resort to do that. I just needed to listen to my own heartbeat again. Have you ever felt like your life was being lived for you? Like you're stuck in a loop, trying to make everyone else happy, but never stopping to ask, what about me? I realized I had been running on fumes for so long, I didn't know what it felt like to be full anymore. But let me tell you, when you finally allow yourself to heal, when you give yourself the grace to breathe, you're unstoppable. What happens when you stop asking for permission to be happy? Mia and I, we're working through it. It's not easy, and it won't be easy. Our relationship is healing, but it's still a work in progress. And maybe that's okay. Maybe not everything needs to be fixed in a day. What matters is that we're on a new path, one where I know my worth, and she's beginning to see it. I don't need her to validate me anymore. I don't need her to see me for the first time. I already see myself. And as for the rest of my family, well, they'll get the message. I'm not here to be someone's fallback, someone's second choice, someone's burden. I'm here to live. And honey, I'm going to live with every ounce of joy, strength, and wisdom I've earned. And maybe one day, when I'm old and gray and sitting on my porch, I'll have the chance to teach the younger women around me how to live their truth too. I'll tell you this. When you know your worth, you stop accepting anything less. That's the lesson I've learned. And if you've been listening to me, maybe that's the lesson you need to hear too. I'm not waiting around for anyone to make me feel valuable. I'm valuable whether or not anyone sees it. That's my truth. And now I can walk into any room, any situation, any chapter of my life and know that I'm not just existing. I'm living. And baby, when you start living for yourself, you unlock a power you never knew you had. I walked out of that resort not just a mother, but a woman who finally knew her worth. And baby, I won't be going back to that invisible place ever again. Let me tell you something, baby. The road to getting here wasn't easy. It wasn't about a fancy resort or a lavish gift or even the perfect words. It was about reclaiming something that was always mine, something I gave away without even knowing it, my dignity, my voice, my worth. For days, I wrestled with the pain, the hurt, the feelings of betrayal. But what I learned, what I want you to hear loud and clear, is this. Sometimes, it takes a storm to find out who you really are. I didn't recognize myself for a while. I didn't know the strength I carried until I was forced to face it. And baby, I've been there. I've been the one overlooked. I've been the one whose love was taken for granted. I've been the woman who gave everything, only to find out that no one noticed. But let me tell you something, I'm not that woman anymore. You ever felt like the world sees you, but no one really sees you? Like you've been invisible for so long, you forgot what it feels like to be seen? Well, I've been there too. I've been the one left in the shadows, waiting for someone to notice that I had a heart, a soul, a voice worth listening to. I had to go through the pain, through the hurt, to find out that I don't need anyone else to tell me I'm valuable. I found my worth all on my own. It wasn't easy, honey. You don't just walk through life like everything's fine when your heart's been broken, when your trust has been shattered. But sometimes you have to let the cracks show. You have to let the storm hit so you can rebuild. Because after the rain, after the hurt, after the tears, there's always a rainbow. And that rainbow? That's you. Now, I know a lot of you out there are nodding your heads. Some of you have been through the storm, and you're still standing. Some of you might be in the middle of your storm right now, not sure if the rain will ever stop. But I'm here to tell you, baby, the storm will pass. You will come out of this stronger. You will come out of this knowing your worth. What would it take for you to reclaim your dignity? How long will you let others dictate your worth? How many times will you give up yourself before you realize that you matter too? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying there's a magic pill to make it all better. But I am saying that you are worthy of the same respect, love, and acknowledgement you give others. You don't need anyone's permission to stand tall. You don't need anyone's approval to say, I am enough. This porch, this space right here, this is where we stand together. This is where you come when you feel invisible. This is where you come when you need to remember who you are, what you've survived, and what you're still capable of. And let me tell you something, you're capable of a whole lot. So, if you've been sitting here, listening to this story, and something in your spirit says, that's me. That's my story too, then don't just sit there and keep it to yourself. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't you dare keep this to yourself. Because if you've ever felt overlooked, if you've ever felt like the world didn't see you, then baby, this porch is for you. This story is for you. You deserve to be heard. And you know, sometimes it feels like people forget about the ones who gave everything for them. They forget the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the quiet prayers. But you know what? I'm not here to be invisible anymore. I'm here to be seen. I'm here to remind you that you matter, your voice matters, and no matter how old you are, you still have a story worth telling. So, if this story touched your heart, if it made you feel like you weren't alone, then don't just sit there. Share it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who feels like they've been forgotten, someone who's been carrying a load that's too heavy. This story is for them too. You see, baby, I'm not just telling you my story for the fun of it. I'm telling you because there's someone out there who needs to hear exactly what you've been through. They need to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. They need to know that they aren't alone. And I'm here to tell you that if you stay with me, if you stick around, I've got more stories. I've got more wisdom, more healing. And together, we'll walk through this journey side by side. Because, honey, I've learned that no storm lasts forever. So hit that subscribe button. Tap that bell so you don't miss a single story, a single lesson. Don't just wait for the rain to stop, let's dance in it together. You're not invisible. You've never been invisible. And if you ever doubted that, well, you've got a space right here on this porch where you can always find your voice again. I'll see you next time, baby. Stay strong, stay visible, and never forget, you matter.